Hello, I'm called Andy. Welcome to another tutorial for Cinema 4D, and we'll also be using a bit of After Effects. This is what we're going to be creating. It's kind of like a broadcast trailer, I guess, for now, next and later programs. There's some mode dynamics and some different camera moves, yeah, there's a fair bit to do, so we'll just get straight into it. But before we do, I'll just show you where the inspiration for this piece came from. It's from a piece by Space Shower TV, and it's about here at 11 seconds, where I thought that'd be cool to do a tutorial. So there we have it. Let's get straight into cinema and begin. I imagine this will be a two-parter, seeing as we've got a fair amount to get through, so let's just call this part 1 Cinema 4D stuff. I'm going to create the text. Let's use some MoText. If you followed one of my previous tutorials, it explains what this is all about. I just have to type here, so if I type now, it creates the text as we need it. So check out, I think it's tutorial 2. Yeah, the one before this. Anyway, back to this one. Let's just align it left and choose a font. Let's go with this. I think that should be good for now. We can obviously tweak it later if we need to. I'm just making a copy, and you can see, because it's called now 1 in the object manager, it's called now 1 here. So let's just change that to next, and it updates. Again, one more time later. There we are. So now we've got our text. Let's actually keep organized and add this to a new layer. And we'll call that MoText. I'm just going to hide that, and we'll focus on creating our cloned elements that we want to then affect with things like turbulence and dynamics. So let's just add in a few objects. Have a sphere, cone, pyramid, one of these botonics, I think, another kind of sphere. I want to add those into the cloner, and I think I'll scale them down a bit too. So I'm just hitting T or to get the scale up. I'm just going to hit Shift so I can constrain the scale down a bit. So let's turn this into a grid array. We don't want any on the y-axis. I don't think that would be a factor, but let's do about 8 by 8 there. Fairly spread apart. In fact, and let's make sure we use a random sorting on the clones. Then we can use the random seed to change that. That might be useful later when we want to create different looks. And why not add some randomness, randomization to these, the way these are spaced out. We don't need any on the Y, but let's I think we might even, yeah, I think we might even space these out a lot, because we're going to be traveling a fair amount with our camera move. So that looks about right for now. Let's go with that. We can always come back and tweak this. So let's select the children. You can see what's happened there. We can add this to a new layer. Call this MoGraph. Add this to a new layer. Call it effectors. Actually, we'll add the tags just for now. So we'll select them all. Dynamics body tag. And just so everything doesn't fall through the floor, if we press play, you can see it will do. Let's add in some scene elements. We'll have a floor and a background as well. Move these to the bottom. And we'll add a dynamics body to our floor as well. So now, yeah, obviously they're going to bounce, but let's just, yeah. Let's move the planer up, hitting E to get the move tool. And yeah, we'll just hide all this for now. Okay. I think now we'll probably get the cubes in. So let's do one cube to begin with. I'm going to resize it to 320 by 180. I think a depth of 200 will be fine. Actually, maybe. I mean, in the video previous video I used 200, but let's just see 180. Yeah, that looks a bit nicer actually. Let's go with that. So we're going to want to make the cube editable. So we can either press this button or hit the C key. Now let's move to our polygon selection tool and select a face. This is the face that we're going to have the screen on. So we'll set a selection. Let's call it screen. And when we create our materials, we'll be able to add the screen material to this specific selection. So now we can duplicate the cube 2 more times. Let's call this cube now. I'm pressing down just to get to the next object. And let's just, while they're here, we're going to use an attractor in our setup, so that our clones will all flock, well, will all just be attracted towards the particular cube, and we will be controlling that as we go. So let's just add these in. An attractor. Set the fall off to box. There we are. I'm going to use a different view just to match it up with the cube. So in the top view, oh, that's the fall off. So let's just move that to there, about there. Let's move it up. And I think we're good there. So I'm going to just nest that in the cube, so that when we move our cube, our attractor will also travel with it. And in fact, just to save time, I'm going to delete these cubes and duplicate again. So now we can have next, later. We've got our cubes, and we also want to be able to reveal them. So to do this, we're going to use a Boolean effect. Here we are. Let's move that up. We're going to use a bigger cube. I'm just holding down Shift to constrain. Let's see now. So that's the shape we want our outer box to be. And then so we'll call that small. And now let's duplicate that. I'll call this big. And it needs to be big enough so that when we rotate it, let's say 45 degrees. Wrong angle, Andy. Here we go, 45 on that. On the banking, this needs to be big enough so that it will cover the whole of our box. And now this is going to be a bit awkward to move because we want to move it from left to right. So let's just add a null object and move it up. You can see it lines up there. And if we put our big box in, and when we come to move it, we can move it a lot easier now. Now what I think I don't want it to be like an arrow cutting through, which you can see here. I'm going to move it down. I want the shape to be actually, that might just be easier to move our point here. So if we move that up, yeah, we're still going to need to make the big box even bigger. Just unparenting it just to move it into place and making sure that it just covers the whole box. And you'll see why in a sec. There we go. We're only ever going to be going out to about there anyway, but yeah, that'll work. So now let's add these two objects into our bool. So let's call this big, and we'll call it reveal now. So in our Boolean object, we want to subtract so that's the kind of effect we're going for. I think I want this particular one. I've done it backwards, so yeah, I want this particular one to work like that, and I hope you can see. I'm just going to zoom in. You can see now we've got this sort of outer box. So let's add some materials now quickly, just so we can just see what we're doing a bit better. Okay, outer box. Let's give this kind of purple and a bit of reflection. We'll use the Fresnel, just a little bit. We'll see how it is for specular at the moment. We might come back to that. And we'll just drop that onto our box to reveal. Let's create a new material for the inner box. And we're going to give this a orangey colour. I think maybe even a little bit of noise, just to add a bit of texture. And let's add that to our cubes, holding down the command button and dragging. Yeah, that's looking okay. Now we'll add our screen materials. And what we need, we're going to use a texture that I've already prepared. I'll show you that actually. Let's go into Photoshop. Just got three layers. Well, if we were to use another one, we could choose that. But I've got 3 layers: one for Family Guy, one for Dexter, one for Breaking Bad. And we will just select a layer. So the first layer we want to select will be Family Guy. So that's our screen now. Let's duplicate that. Let's call it next. Back in, and next is Dexter. And finally, our later screen will be Breaking Bad. I'm going to select all of the screen materials, and just going to turn off specular for now. We'll just see how we go. And also, I think let's just up the preview of the texture size, just so it looks nice in our window. If the screen started to slow, if the scene started to slow down, we could obviously reduce that. But what we're going to do then is apply it to our materials. So screen now, and we're going to drag in our selection and do the same for screen next, and screen later. So now it's starting to look a bit more like it. There we have it so far. That's the our first one. So let's group this together. I'm holding down Alt and pressing G, and we'll call this now. And I think what we can do is also, the reveal for now is also the same for later. So let's just duplicate that and just rename it so we're organized. I'm going to turn off now for now and bring back our later cube. Yeah, so that'll be fine. And then let's group those together. And for next, let's shut off later. Next is going to be slightly different. We're kind of wanting two triangles in the corners, so the reveal is just going to be slightly more interesting. So let's duplicate our big null here, and we need to then, for the Boolean to work, we need to group these again. So Alt G, and there. So this is, let's call this left and right. Now I want to move this out. So we've got something like that going on. Let's move that over a bit. We're just kind of working out the final positions for our triangular kind of reveals. I think probably it would be a good time to animate these now, and then that's done. So let's do that. And let's just first name this, group this, and now we're organized. Okay. So let's do the reveal now. So we've got our end position, which is like that. I think I'm going to go along, say, 15 frames for now, and record a keyframe by hitting Command and clicking. And then if we move back, let's use our null big to drag over. There we are. And I'm just going to hit Command again and record another keyframe. You can see that happening. Okay, let's move on. Still a lot to do. Let's do the next. We have our final positions for the next, so I'm just going to record keyframes here, selecting both of them and hitting Command. And then let's move back. Let's do our left one. We want to bring this to around the middle. Let's also bring the right one over. And just there. So in our right, let's record a keyframe. Back to the left, recording a keyframe. And let's play that back. Nice. We've got the reveal just as we want it. And finally, later. I think we'll move that over just a touch so it's slightly different. Back to frame 15, we'll record a keyframe, and then we will move it over, and just a touch, record another keyframe. Great. Okay, so that's our reveals all set up. I think, what should we do now? Let's get everything in a kind of space, and then we can add things like the camera and the lighting and the final materials and everything else. So here we go. We will move. Let's move to a top view, and bring in our text again. Maybe we should quickly add some materials for our text, just so we've done that. So, adding a new material. It's now text. Let's go with a kind of blue. Something like that, just for now. Let's make a copy. Next text. Change the colour. Kind of a pink. And in fact, what I might do is just add a bit of luminance to these as well. Just so let's copy the colour channel. Selecting that, right-clicking, copy into the luminance again, and just pasting. And I just want to bring that down a bit. Let's just see what that does. Yeah, I think that would be a good thing to do. So let's do that for our other one. Copy, paste, and it was around something like that. Yeah, and we'll just do one more material for later. Go with the greeny, copy, and paste to the luminance. Later. Next. Now. let's just see, I'm going to probably want to move them all, so let's just transfer these to where now is. And I'm just going to bring, make them children of their parent null, so that when we move everything, we just move everything at the same time. So let's move next now. Switching over to the move tool, making sure we're in the model tool, and let's zoom out a bit. Okay, so let's move this over and back, and our later, let's move this over and rotate it, holding shift to constrain the angle, and we'll rotate it 90 degrees this way too, and we'll move it over. So we're going to use CS Tools MoCam. Let's drag that in from the content browser. And if you don't have CS Tools installed, I recommend you go and check out one of Nick Campbell's or Grayscale Gorilla's great tutorials on how to get these into Cinema 4D R12. I'll link that up in the description. So the way MoCam works is a master camera kind of moves in between waypoints, and you can see these are your various waypoints. We're only going to need 3 of them, so I'm just going to deactivate the ones that we don't need. And then what you do is you select a waypoint, waypoint 1, and move it into position. Yeah, so I just wanted to reset that because I think I'd actually messed with the overall MoCam tool. So what I'm going to do is just get rough positioning on these 3 areas. Switch over to waypoint 2. And finally so let's see if that's worked out. So you choose MoCam, and yeah, okay. So we've got the basic camera moves, and you can see it moving from area to area. Let's just fix a few things with the camera move. For example, waypoint 3, we need to make sure our rotation is correct. So let's hop on over to that now. So that's our, let's concentrate now on just framing these up and getting them looking right. Notice that now that we've zoomed in. We'll have to just go in and fix that. But I'll do that in a sec. Just we'll just make sure that we've got our moves as we want them. And obviously we'll be tweaking this when we get more elements in the scene. So best just to be fairly rough for now. Alright, happy with that for now. What we want to do is give ourselves enough space. Just adding more frames to our project. So just set up the duration of each camera move and I think I want that to hold for about 50 frames, then move in 1.5 seconds, hold that for 50 frames, 1.5, and 1.5 there. Let's just see how that works out. That's starting to look alright. I think maybe we just hold them for a bit longer, 60 frames. 60 frames. That's yeah, that's pretty better overall pacing. So at this stage, it's obviously looking a bit bare. We've got our cloners, but we haven't got those in yet. I want to add a carpet kind of element, just so there's something different, something nice on the floor. So I'm going to take a Bezier spline and just start drawing a path that leads us through our scene. Around there, let's add a rectangle spline and a sweep NURBS, and put them both into the sweep NURBS object. I think this is our problem here. That's the problem. Didn't have the right plane for it, you see, and now we can add a bit of thickness to it. Let's just look through our camera just to see what's going on. Right, just a little fix there. Our MoCam must have moved. Let's call this carpet, and this is going to help us as well with our positioning of elements. And I think I want to make sure that the carpet is kind of running underneath here, and that this is a bit over. Let's see how it looks later. Not bad. Maybe something like that. I think if we switch the points to subdivided there, we've got a nicer, less angular line. I think this also tells me that I want to be a bit closer in waypoint 2, so I'm just going to do that now. Get a bit closer. And maybe even also in waypoint 1. Let's quickly add a material to the carpet. Let's take off the specular. Let's add a gradient. I want to choose none for the knots because I want it just to be red. And then a kind of gold line. Let's see how that actually works on our carpet. I think we'll just quickly add a light to the scene. Okay, that's not correct. So we need to shift our gradient across. Yeah. So fortunately we can interactively see what's going on as well. Let's get some numbers going so then we can be a bit more accurate. Let's call that 1%. Oops, 1% for the gold and 2% for the red. Okay. That needs to come over. So what was that? Let's say 24%. 23. Just going to let's move the light over. I think the best or easiest place for us to see what's going on would be top-down view of later. And that's okay. Maybe a bit thick, perhaps. There we are. I'm happy with that for now, so we can move on. Let's get some lighting in here. And for that, I think we need to use the Grayscale Gorilla Light Kit Pro and an overhead softbox. So we'll add that to the scene. Here we are. I am going to make it brighter, change our gobo shape to gradient, scale it up quite a bit, and let's move it up as well. I think our shadows will be around 65 density, maybe just something like that. If we bring in our cloner object as well, this will help us see what's going on a bit better. They're massive, we'll have to resize those. Let's do that now. Just turn off the cloner. Of course they're all there. Let's see now, that's a bit better. Maybe a touch big still, but let's go with that for now. Okay. Okay, so we've got our basic scene there. We need to work on our lighting a lot. And I think brightening it up will be good. One thing that I've missed is the textures on the floor and background. So let's add that material now. Choose a colour which will be a sort of light blue. Bit of noise for texture. Yeah. Just a touch. And we'll take off our specular. Add a bit of reflection. Let's just apply that and see how it looks. Yeah, not bad, but the problem is it's not seamless, so let's add a tag, compositing tag, and choose compositing background. So that's much better. Let's figure out a bit more of this lighting. Maybe choose a little colour. Let's just see how that goes, and what I want to do is also fix the camera position. It's not really cool. So let's get a bit lower. Bring this in. Bring it up. And let's bring the whole thing down to, that's the floor, about there, so around about there. I think I want to do, as these are animating, I want to add some movement. So that there's just something going on. So let's group this, and with this null, let's just rotate it a bit and record a keyframe, and then say after maybe 70 seconds, 70 frames, we'll just have it round. It'll be round to here by then. So we've got something going on with our box. Gives it a bit more of a look. One thing I think we should do at this stage as well is see the clones are falling. We want them to actually be on the floor when the animation starts. So for that to work, we can, now that they've fallen down, we can take our dynamics body tags and choose set initial state. So now when we rewind the playhead, they're already on the floor. Okay. They're not actually doing anything cool at the moment, so what we want to do is we set up those attractors beforehand. Let's get them doing something. That strength is way too low. Let's put it up to 1,000 and see what happens. There we are. So now now the clones are sort of racing towards the box. Let's just bring the scale down a bit. So then they'll just sort of try and congregate underneath it. So that's quite cool. So we'll set the other one up in the same way. Yeah, okay, here we go. Just scale it up a bit and give it 1,000. We want that strength to be coming on about now, so let's keyframe that and delay before 0 strength. So when let's just move into our MoCam. When we move over to there, have to just sort out the distribution of the clones for sure. And that's just the softbox. Let's move that up. It's all about little tweaks really. Let's just check the cloner object. Okay, they're all over here. That's no good. Let's do this. Centralize it. We'll go for a lot more clones, and we'll space them out. A lot more as well. And again, now since we've made this change, let's clear the initial state. Oops. Get them to drop and set initial state. Okay, so we've got a lot more clones in the scene, which is good. And we'll continue to tweak that as well. Right, moving on. I'm going to do what we did before, sort out the camera. Waypoint 2. Let's get lower with this camera. Let's move that text up. We were going to do a rotation on this. So when does it come in? When we come in, around about here, let's just put these rough numbers in for now, and we're gone. So let's say that will be around about there. That's quite cool. And finally, let's move this in. I think the angle will be fine for this, but let's just get a bit of rotation on. It'll be this one. Nope, still the same way. So from about there to the end, to about there. Definitely a lot more going on, and it's a lot cooler. I think I was going to add some turbulent effect to just get the clones moving a bit more. Just putting in some random numbers for now. Let's see how they look. Yeah, that's giving us a bit more movement. I quite like this movement actually. I think what we need to do still, we haven't actually put on the attractor for the later, so let's do that. And we want that to come on probably a bit before, probably around about here, because as the move's starting. So in our, yes, later, attractor, 1,000, actually maybe 3,000, just because there's a lot more, the clones have to travel a lot further. I'll just try that number for now. Reset. There they go. And this is something that you guys can tweak and get right. But for now, you know, we've got something going on, and it's pretty cool. I think we've got almost all the elements there. That's our problem. don't really want... I think we need to make sure that this is actually in our luminance channel. Let's just see how we go here. Well, that's a bit too much. Maybe just 20%. That's what I meant. Oh. Let's turn that all the way down. Let's try that. Let's bring in a bit more. I'm a bit happier with that. Let's apply that to, so copy luminance, paste in the texture. Copy. Paste. That's all fine, I think. Just moving it down a bit. Again, I think the last thing we need to do is just add some materials to our clones. This kind of stripy texture. See how that looks on our cone. If we can find a cone somewhere. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Here we are, quick little look. Nice. Let's do a variation on that. Just want to leave a bit of reflection. Let's put that on our sphere. See it there? Maybe even a touch of reflection on the cone as well. And let's add that to that. Let's create another version. Set that pyramid, make this one. Let's take off the Fong tag on that. I should get some interesting results. Okay. There we go. We must add a dynamics body to our carpet. Let's just see. Hopefully. pretty cool. Kind of don't like that's inside the carpet to begin with, so I think we'll just randomize. Let's just check that we are being affected, yeah. Let's just clear the initial state again. Move our clone over a touch. And let them drop. And select them all. Set the initial state. Yeah, that's given us a bit more going on. Carpet. If I want the clones to interact with the carpet, then I think I'll have to set it to on, but if I don't want it to be affected by the turbulence, so let's just change the forces to include, so that only forces in the include list would actually affect the carpet. So now, yeah. I want to quickly add some gravity, just so our clones are affected by that when they move. And the next thing we need to do is actually tweak our animation, because currently the reveals are not happening on time. See, that's already done, the next one's already done. So let's move these over. That's about right. And the same with these. There we go. This is something that we need to come back to on the next. That's showing. We don't want that. So what do we need to move to make that? So it's our final position for this. It's not that. There we go, we just need to add in that. There we go, that's fixed. Good stuff. Okay, let's hide our timeline. Just need to add some compositing tags for when we do our color correction in After Effects. So let's set these up. I want one on each text and each box. Just hide this. There we go. 5, 6, and one on the cloner. That will be 7. One on our carpet will be 8. There we are. Well, thank you very much for sticking with this. I know it's been a very long one. I've tried to go through it as quickly as possible, but there was a lot to get through. So that's our final shot. Let's now check our render settings. We're rendering 1280-720, all frames, anti-aliasing set to best. We're saving our project as a TIFF sequence, 16-bit, no alpha channel needed, and we have our multi-pass, all our object buffers, and we're going to save the After Effects file also, and that's it, we're good to go. I did add these in. The process is just multi-pass object buffer and then just add in the group ID, hit render. And there we go, time for a cup of tea, and hopefully you'll join me for the second part in After Effects where we composite all these passes together and finish the shot. So thanks for watching, I'm called Andy and I'll see you in part 2.